Hello and welcome back. My name is Lindy Jung. I am a science fiction and fantasy writer pursuing traditional publishing, and this channel is a space where I've been sharing my writing journey, writing insights, and just general writing things. Some of you may know this already, but I am currently working on Project Crypts, which is an adult gothic fantasy about a death priestess who infiltrates a noble house of necromancers, and things kind of snowball from there. I'm currently on draft 1 of this project. We're somewhere in the first act, and my goal is to have a finished first draft by the start of next February, so February 2025, and a completed final agent-ready draft sometime next spring. And honestly, I kind of never thought I would say this because I feel like my last couple projects have been such a difficult process for me. This book in particular, so far, I don't want to jinx it, but it's been a surprisingly smooth writing process. I'm having a lot of fun with the characters and the world and the story. There's a fun kind of like antagonistic disaffection. I don't want to say enemies because that's not quite the case, but there's some like, hate to love going on with the romance, and it's just kind of a soapy fun time. I've been documenting the process of writing this book. I had kind of a false start, and you can watch that and the most recent videos here in this playlist, which is the very handily titled Project Crypts playlist. But yeah, welcome back to another writing vlog installment for Project Crypts. At the time of filming, it is the second week of November, which of course November is traditionally the month of NaNoWriMo, or National Novel Writing Month, and there's been some controversy with that. I made a more coherent statement in my previous writing vlog for the series, so you can check that out there. I'm kind of using NaNoWriMo as a tag for searchability reasons, but in general I do disagree with the organization's actions. I just think that it's okay to kind of separate the organization and the event to some degree. Right now I'm using November as an excuse or a motivator to write as much as possible for this draft, and my goal is to hit 50,000 words by the end of this month. I'm currently somewhere at around 9,000 at the start of this vlog, so there's definitely a long ways to go. The first week of November I had friends visiting from California, so I was running around and trying to hang out with them as much as possible, spend time with them. So as a result, not a lot of words happened. I've also just been especially busy with school stuff. I'm currently in a grad program and that's been really busy as well. But I do have a free weekend here, so I've decided to use that time, so around 4 days, to write 10,000 words, to add 10,000 words of quality writing to this draft. But before we get into that, if you watched my previous vlog, you may have noticed that my writing space, my desk, which you actually can't see right now, but I'll show you in a second, looks a little bit different. And that is courtesy of today's sponsor, FlexiSpot. FlexiSpot offers a range of ergonomic office supplies, including this 2-in-1 walking pad and treadmill. As a writer, I tend to clock in a lot of sitting hours, so this combination has been an absolute game changer because now I can get my steps in while I work. But I wanted to specifically highlight their standing desks today. I got this desk a few weeks ago and we put it together. FlexiSpot standing desks are made of automotive grade steel, not aluminum, so they are incredibly sturdy. The one I got is the E7 Pro. I'm absolutely in love with it. I cannot recommend it enough. I really like the chipboard storage space as well, but that is optional, so you can get it without it. And there are so many other desk options at a variety of price points that are customizable as well. You can see that I'm starting to customize the space a little bit. I have my succulent and my other items. I'm just looking to get a couple more things, and then this corner of the room will be the perfect place to foster my creativity and productivity. And if you're looking to get an E7 Pro like me, or just an E7, I guess regular standing desk, which I'm assuming is just as good, then you can use the code YTE730 to get $30 off of the total price today. There is a 15-year warranty on all of their products and 30 days of free returns if you don't like the product for any reason, so definitely worth trying it out. Thank you so much again to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. When I was planning this video out, I really wanted to have this whole weekend just dedicated to writing, and then I ended up being really busy. So I only have like one day that is free. So I kind of spread it out. It's a bit more than a weekend. It's technically 4 days. We're gonna go Friday through Monday, and to hit my goal of 10,000 words in those 4 days, I'm gonna have to add 2,500 words each day. I think split between like a morning session and an evening session each day, that shouldn't be too difficult. And I'm just really eager to get that done because I feel like once you get to the 20,000 to 30,000 word mark in a draft, that's when it starts to feel more and more like a real book. And right now, Crypts is not feeling like a real book, it's feeling like a jumble of scenes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So it is currently Friday, November 8th, which means it is day 1 of this weekend writing challenge. What we're gonna do right now is dive directly into the document. I'm not gonna read my vocal training books or anything like that. I have about 2 hours, a little bit less, to get some stuff done before I head out to student teaching. And the other part of this is that I do have an edit letter for one of my Patreon edits to finish up, wrap up, and then send to that person. So in short, I have to finish up an edit letter, then I'm going to dive into writing Project Crypts again. So I'll do that thing I did in the previous vlog, which I kind of enjoyed because it's not like necessarily sharing all of my messy drafting writing with you, but it's kind of sharing my thought process and how I'm approaching the writing, which I think was fun. I don't know. The urge to go back and edit has been so strong lately. I absolutely feel like every word I've put down is just rubbish and that I need to rewrite the book from scratch. Obviously, I'm not gonna do that. I think that most of it is pretty fine. I'm just so paranoid that it's like very boring writing, like it's a very boring introduction to the story, but I'm excited to put some scenes in and kind of change that up a bit. So we're gonna add new words and not go back and edit. We're not gonna do that. I will talk you guys through it once I'm done with this edit letter. Let's take a look at this document that I've been neglecting. I've been using chapter titles in the manuscript so far. It's kind of weird because I never thought of myself as a chapter title girly, but then Mods has all of its chapter titles in French, and most of them are little bits taken from like French poetry or philosophy or whatever, and kind of ironically or, you know, just straight up play into the contents of that chapter. For this one, I'm just kind of coming up with words. It's not in a different language, it's nothing fancy. For example, chapter 2, for now, because everything is subject to change, is titled Malicious Creatures. And I think that's a good summation of like what goes on in the chapter. My fear with chapter titles is always like, I'm gonna be able to come up with some of them really easily, but I'm not gonna be able to come up with others as easily. So some of the chapter titles are inevitably gonna be pretty boring. I'm liking this so far. I'm gonna read through what I've written for chapter 2 and see what I can add to it. And we're at 9,212 words to start. So I just had an injury. Like, one of the characters had a minor injury on their hand that left a mark, and every time I have an injury, I try to make a comment of it, especially if it leaves a mark, because I want to like remember. So I just left like a Google Docs comment being like, making note of this little wound, because otherwise I'm gonna forget and there's not gonna be consistency. This is a lot of introspection. I just spelled candelabra wrong like 3 times in a row. All right, so now I'm doing like a description of a setting, and I'm trying to figure out like the balance between describing the whole room and describing the details that are sticking out, because there's something unusual about this room, the vibe is off, and I want something supernatural to happen here, but I don't quite know how to introduce said happening. I feel like I just came up with like 2 really neat terms for the types of magic. So necromancy is the main magic system, but there's like branches within that different people specialize in, and there's like different beliefs about different branches. I feel like I just came up with 2 really cool terms for 2 of the branches, but I think I could make this better. Okay, so I have officially hit 10,000 words in this draft, which is further than I got in the 0 draft of this book, and I'm just still feeling really good about this project. Stop yelling at your dad. So 847 words total for this morning. Obviously, I'm going to come back. Chapter 2 is also complete. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 combined are not 10,000 words. I've been jumping ahead a fair amount. So there's like scenes from other chapters that are adding to that word count, but it feels really good to have those 2 more or less finished. I think Chapter 1 could still use a little bit of tinkering, but honestly, Chapter 2, I mean, out of 2 chapters, Chapter 2 is definitely my favorite so far, and I really like how it turned out, even though it's not super like action-packed or exciting or anything. There is a lot of really good like tension buildup. Obviously there's always room for improvement, but I feel good about it. And that's especially good because I have to kind of like collect chapters 1 and 2 and spruce them up a little bit. And then I'm going to do a first chapters exchange with some people next month. So people are going to be reading Crypts for literally the first time. It's kind of nerve-wracking because this is such an early draft, and with mods and stuff I was sharing early chapters, but it was like draft
7 at that point. So this feels like a very new early stage of the project, but I think that every time I write a book, I get a little bit faster and I get a little bit better in those early stages. Obviously, I'm still going to end up revising this book a lot to get it up to speed or up to par, I guess. But for like the first, 10,000 words of this book, I feel like it's a lot stronger than my previous first drafts have been. So there's a lot more to work with, and there's hopefully less work that I have to do, especially on the developmental end, to kind of rearrange things. But who knows, I could be delusional. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up this morning session. I'll be back in the evening to write a bit more. It is technically my weekend. I only have one day off this week, which is tomorrow, and I'm gonna spend it writing, but that's okay. Bye for now. So it's currently 8 p.m. I'm about to start my second official writing session for day 1, and we're gonna see if we can try to get to 2,500 words in this next 30 minutes or so. I think I am gonna fall a little bit under today, but that's okay because it was a busier day and I have all of tomorrow off to focus on writing and make up that extra. But so far I have 1,204 words total. I was sort of diligently not doing what I was supposed to be doing during my free hours, so I had some time to add a couple words in, and I think that's when I hit the 1,000 word mark, but I'm not 100% sure. So far we have wrapped up chapter 2, and now we're going into chapter 3. We're seeing more of the family as a unit, and we're seeing more of our priestess main character and how she's navigating those dynamics. One of the things that I'm exploring in this draft is kind of how I'm going to build up the relationship between the main character and her love interest. With every project, I am part pantsing, part plotting, so I've, got a good idea of where I want the story to go in terms of the main plot and the character arcs, but there's some things that I've kind of left as a little surprise for myself, and one of those things is definitely the progression of the romance. I think this is going to be kind of a slow burn, definitely sort of antagonistic, borderline enemies to reluctant allies, kind of to lovers deal, and I have an idea of when those main beats and turning points will happen, but I'm kind of not sure what will happen in between. What is this dynamic going to look like in these opening couple chapters where they're first getting to know each other? How will their suspicions of one another play out? And that is just kind of how my process works. I need to give myself things to discover and explore. Oftentimes that's kind of how themes will play out for me, especially in that first draft, but I very much enjoy writing intuitively. It's kind of like having a roadmap but not being 100% sure what stops you're going to take or what routes you're going to take. So here and there I might take a detour, and that's what makes it fun. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the session. If I get up to 2,000 words, I'll be happy. Honestly, and I don't know if you can tell, but I can barely keep my eyes open. It's not very late, but I'm just so exhausted. Yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it. So filming this on my camera because my phone literally just gave up and died. I just wrapped up day 1. We finished with a total of 11,017 words in the document, and I have officially added 1,800 words for today. So that's about 700 words less than my goal is for each day, but again, we're going for that average. I'm making an agenda for tomorrow. One of the things that I definitely want to do is sketch out a really rudimentary kind of find my footing, get the basics down map of this world. I want to film the intro for this video because I didn't get the chance to do that today. Because I'm missing 700 words from today, I'm going to add that to tomorrow's total, so we're going to go for 3,200 words. And I'm also going to do a sticky note scene overview, so I'm going to find some sticky notes and kind of map out the scenes I've written so far and the scenes that I have planned, kind of get that bird's eye view of what I'm going to be working on, especially for Act 1. Even though I'm not in the revising or outlining stage, which is when I feel like people usually do that bird's eye view look at their work, I think right now this will be helpful for me as I'm kind of finding my footing and establishing the characters and the story and figuring out where to go from here. So yeah, it's gonna be a pretty big day of writing tomorrow, and I'll catch up with you guys then. Bro, okay. Saturday, November 9th, day 2 of the writing challenge. It's 1:30. I have not, okay, I woke up really late. I had a really nice homemade breakfast that I made. It was
delicious. I went grocery shopping. So I did like adult things, you know. Writing, not happening. I did have a video come out today, and I feel like for the first morning after a video of mine releases, I become useless because I'm addicted to this YouTube analytics, which I should not be. I deleted Studio off my phone. I'm trying to be normal about it, but better late than never. So we're gonna start getting some writing stuff done today. I have this lovely list that I wrote up yesterday. I think I'm gonna start by just diving into the document and figuring out the scenes. Basically what I do for this is I just have like a one-line summary of each scene, and then I'm going to write little notes. Like for example, if I want to figure out what the consequences of what happened in that scene is, I think it's very useful for me to, one, get a bird's eye view of my scenes, of my story as an entire unit, and two, personally, I do tend to struggle with compartmentalizing scenes or defining the boundaries of a scene. And I think this is something that I need to kind of like force myself to do. There's a really big bug on the window. Oh my gosh. And yeah, it also helps me kind of figure out where we're going next, which I am not gonna lie, feeling slightly stuck. Then we're gonna write 3,200 words. I did film my intro, so I can check that off. As kind of like a bonus, I'm going to make a map of the world. I might honestly paint it out because I haven't busted out the paints in a couple weeks, and that should be the day. It's a lot of like big tasks. Tomorrow's gonna be a different story. I work all day, so I'm going on site to my job. So that's all of my housekeeping stuff for today. Gonna keep this intro for the day relatively short because, you know, we gotta get moving. I will catch up with you guys in a little bit. Bye. So it's 6 o'clock. I am calling it for today, I think. I did not hit 3,200 words total for today. All in all, for the manuscript, I have 13,200 words, and today I did manage to put 2,183 words in. Kind of a late start to the day, and also there was like a lot running around to do, cooking, distractions all around. But I do think I got a couple of good productive sessions in. I definitely am, you know, I'm okay with this word count. It's not the goal. Like I aimed big and I got a relatively big result, so I'm happy with that. Right now I'm writing like a feast scene, which is very niche, but I also had this in my like secondary world fantasy inspired by historical Korea. I love researching old-timey foods, so I kind of fell into like an old-timey Italian Renaissance feast food rabbit hole, and I got really into that. It's so interesting. I'm thinking a lot about like imports and exports and agriculture and stuff for this world, so there's a lot of like moving pieces, but I'm also just letting myself have fun and come up with these dishes. What's funny is that this is like the longest scene I have in the book so far, I think, as in it's the longest individual scene, but a lot is going on. So I've been chipping away at that. Chapter 3 is not fully written yet. I think most of the bones are laid out, so I have a good idea of the direction of the scene. I wrote a scene card for it, which is really helpful. I did not get around to drawing my map today because I just kind of got into the zone with writing, and I have 3.5 of my scene cards written out. So that is a wrap for today. I'll update you guys tomorrow. Yeah, super excited to eat dinner right now, so I'm gonna go do that. I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow. Bye. Okay, so it's day 3. It's currently 7:30 p.m. As you can probably tell from the lack of footage, not a lot of writing got done today. In the breaks that I had today, which were less than I thought, I got in 115 words. I was able to accomplish a little bit here and there on some other things, so like video editing. Right now, I just have completely, I think, given up on homework as a concept. I'm going to give myself 30 minutes to kind of just like speed type. I was digging around through different files and I found some other outlines and different things I can pull together to kind of build up my scenes. I keep going back and I keep feeling really dissatisfied with chapter 1, but at this point I think I just have to let it rest, you know, like bread dough, and then get back to it later. I'm not gonna lie, I feel a little bit wrung out from today and from work, so we'll see how far I get. I don't even really have a word count goal in mind. I certainly will not be hitting 2,500 words today. Yeah, that's not fun. I really could have used my time yesterday a bit more wisely, but then it comes down to inspiration and creative energy and all these things. However, at the same time, I do feel like I have added a significant number of words and also just like brainstormed and thought about and spent time with this book in this past couple days, so I'm not too upset about like not hitting 10,000 words. It was a bit of a stretch goal by design and we're fine with that. So yeah, without wasting any more of my very limited time, I'm going to go ahead and start writing.
It's 8:16. I have hit 14,238 words total in this document, and I've added 1,038 words so far tonight. I'm going to just like kind of close this out for now because I really want to shower and just do human things for a little bit. But for the session, I actually went to the very end and I wrote the climax and parts of the denouement for the story. The climax is really intense and I've had a very concrete idea for it, essentially since the beginning of this version of the draft. In a way, I was almost like, okay, I need to kind of expunge this from me. I need to put it down on paper. Obviously, this is very non-linear. It's not going to work for everyone because I personally do think that linear writing yields cleaner drafts and cleaner writing in general, especially in terms of continuity. For me, at this stage, I'm still kind of experimenting. I'm still getting a feel for various different abstract aspects of this book. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna write the climax really quickly. And of course, this will change. Nothing that I'm writing is set in stone. It's almost like a nice anchor point, so I know that this is how the story ends. I have a pretty firm idea of how it begins. Now I'm just like kind of drawing the path between them. Tomorrow I have school, but it's not that much school, so hopefully I'll have a little bit of time to write here and there. For now, definitely a shower is needed, and I'm going to snack a little bit and then go to bed. So I will update you guys tomorrow. Bye. Welcome to the fourth and final day of this challenge. It went by fast. It is 9:30 in the morning. I have to head out at around 11:30, so this is a good 2-hour chunk in which, you know, I got up a little bit earlier than I have been getting up. I got my coffee, had a banana. We're ready to go. In this morning session, my goal is to get probably around 1,000 words in if I can. After I get back from work, I'm gonna see if I can punch in a couple more, but we're just kind of going with the flow. I think what is healthy for me now is not checking my word count until I'm finished with the session. I noticed this last night, but because I was like, oh, I just want to be done for the day so I can like do other things, I kept checking my word count, and then so once I hit that 1,000 word mark, I was like, all right, I'm done. Even though I probably could have done a little bit more. So I don't know if anyone else is like that. Sometimes the numbers / word count brain supersedes the creativity / writing brain, and I'd like to avoid that for today. But I have been feeling kind of weird about this vlog and my vlogs in general lately. I just can't help but feel like they're a bit repetitive. So I would actually love to pose this question to you guys. What is something that you would like to see more of in writing vlogs? I like these talky bits. I also like making them a little bit more on the cinematic side. Unfortunately, this weekend I did not get outside much. So there wasn't much cinematic b-roll because it was just like at my desk and then at work. So those are like two things that I would say are hallmarks or things that I strive toward in terms of making vlogs, and also being very upfront and talking about literally everything that comes into my head during writing and beyond writing in these little like sit down and talk sessions. But beyond that, nothing is sacred. So definitely let me know if there's stuff you would like to see more of, or stuff that I stopped doing for whatever reason that you'd like to see, topics of discussion that you'd like me to prioritize. And yeah, another thing about this particular vlog is that it was technically a challenge vlog. I mean, all of November is just one big challenge vlog, but obviously I did not hit the goal that I was aiming for in any of these days. Finding that balance between I am personally as a writer okay with writing over 1,000 words every day for the past 4 days and feeling good about that versus I didn't meet the specifications of the challenge, so this is like a fail vlog, and also it's just not as fun, maybe because I'm not pushing myself as hard. I guess that disparity between content creator brain, where I actually accomplish what I set out to do at the beginning of the video, versus writer brain, where I'm just happy to have progress and to have words in. That's been something that I've been grappling with as well lately. In general, I want to be authentic in these videos. I like to document the ups and the mostly downs, many downs, and also lots of plateauing, honestly. Like, I value those things, and I also value putting quality words into the document and actually making my book the best it can be versus writing a certain number of words and then sharing it. But yeah, that's just a thought that's been on my brain. I'm going to start this morning writing session. I'm gonna grab my keyboard out now, actually. I am feeling inspired, motivated, energized, but let's dive right into this document. I was working significantly on the climax of the story, but I'm going to move away from that. And I might actually pull up my note cards, or pull out my note cards and work on those a little bit more and work on fleshing out the scenes and stuff. Chapters 1, 2, and 3 had the scenes fleshed out, but chapter 4 did not so much. I don't know where the note cards went. Let me just find them. Chapter 1, 2, 3, and now 4. I jumped forward again. I jumped forward in the document. I'm not anywhere close to done. It's still only like 10:20. I finished putting Act 1 onto scene cards, and I like these because I can make notes in different colors and do all this. This also works in like a program, but at this stage where it's still kind of a big sloppy mess, then, you know, it's a little bit easier. I did jump forward again in the draft. I realized that there was like a really cool description of the magic being used from my draft 0, which is the previous, now defunct, completely different story, completely different energy draft that I wrote previously. And looking at that draft, I'm like, I enjoy the writing because it's a bit more polished. I had a bit more time to spend on it, and it's like just more linear and cleaner. I don't know, I'm just so much happier with this like more recent vision, which is much more cohesive. The pitch is, I think, very fun and very cool. It is a story that can be summed up in like a very pitchable way and still have like a lot more depth to it beyond the pitch. But I'm just having so much fun with this concept. I think it's a fantastic concept, and now it just boils down to the execution. But the reason I stopped is because I'm kind of just been like dumping ideas into this document, like my draft 1, my first draft, and they're not arranged in any particular order. There's like scenes that I've written twice in 2 different ways, like with slightly different subtext or context. Obviously I'm gonna have to go back and delete them. But the other thing with like word count challenges is I feel weird editing, especially in a way that's like killing my darlings or cutting out scenes or cutting down my work, because then obviously my word count goes down. But then it makes it kind of untenable because I have these entire chapters. Like chapter 3 right now is like 5 random paragraphs or chunks of scene that don't really come together in a really cohesive way. At the end of the day, I'm just happy that I'm still having fun with this project. So gonna get right back into it. I think so far I've added probably like 300 words. But again, like not the best metric for productivity. Let's get back into this. I can't wait for this challenge to be over.
Okay, it's 9:30, so I am officially calling it quits after what I think was probably an hour and a half straight of writing. I like had some dinner. We watched the final episode of The Penguin and like, you know, decompressed a little bit, and then I just kind of jumped right back into it. All in all, I'll do like a word count recap of everything and all the numbers and stuff in the outro, but for today I have hit 16,320 words total in the document. Today specifically I added 2,082 words. Not the 2,500 word count goal that I had set for myself for each of these days, but pretty damn good if I'm gonna be honest. If I were doing a traditional NaNoWriMo, I would have basically accomplished everything that I needed to in this past couple days. Couple of notes from this last session. I found some music. So I'd been struggling a little bit to find music that really suited this project. I'm very much a mood and vibes writer, and a lot of like tone and the energy I get and that I put into writing comes from finding the appropriate immersion music, if that makes sense. So I like music that feels like it could be the soundtrack to the book that I'm writing if that book were a film. And I was kind of struggling with this one because I was like at first listening to a lot of like orchestral or classical music to get more of that gothic vintage vibe, but none of it was sinister enough. What I'm realizing with this project is that the main character, Alessia, the death priestess, is an absolute like feral. She's feral. And I kind of love it. She's terrible in so many ways. I also wrote a terrible female main character in mods. Lark was terrible in more of a conniving way. Alessia's just like straight up female rage, evil woman, and I love it. I'm still kind of developing the nuances of her, but this female rage idea really encompasses her. Anyway, so I wanted more female rage music, and I found that in Kiki Rockwell. Specifically, I've been listening to Burn Your Village, which has just like such an energetic beat, very witchy, and I feel like that was a really good song that I found literally this session that helped me dive into the mindset of Alessia and like dive into the tone and vibes that I want for this story. Some other songs are Girl with One Eye by Florence and the Machine, The Fruits by Paris Paloma, Gallo Dance by Lebanon Hanover, In terms of the other characters, their relationships are really starting to come to the surface. So I've said it a million times, I'm having so much fun with the character relationships in this story. And in particular, there's like a shitty son in his 30s. So there's like the main male character who's like the love interest, and then there's like his half brother who is just the worst, but the worst in such a specific way that is very specifically like a male character, evil villain archetype that I'm obsessed with. It almost feels indulgent to write him because I'm just so like, oh, every action he takes is motivated by a very small set of motivations that make perfect sense, but are also so insane and maladjusted. Like, he is so maladjusted, and I love it. So yeah, you can probably tell I'm really like energized, upbeat. That was such a good session to end off on, and I am really tired and really drained. So I will do the outro and the wrap up tomorrow, and I'll see you guys then. Bye. I feel a little silly. I don't know. This vlog has felt sillier than most vlogs. I don't know if you guys felt that energy in this one. So that's a wrap on this long-ish, kind of not really fake weekend, in which I obviously tried to write 10,000 words. Did I hit 10,000 words? No. So I hit 7,108 words, which is just like 2,900 words shy. My average across the 4 days was 1,777 words. I feel like I did a good job. But as I mentioned a little bit before, these word count based challenges are never really it for me, but I do feel really good about the number of words I've put into this document. All in all, we're very close to 20K now. In that last session, when I added like 2,000 words out of nowhere, I surpassed the 15,000 word mark, which is a really big milestone. So we're at 16,320 words. And what's interesting about this one is that I do not feel like I'm flatlining. Normally when I do any sort of word count challenge or writing challenge for a vlog, I can't write after, but I am ready to tackle this document again. I really want to go back and kind of edit what I've got in there though. Eventually, after this video is over, a rescan of chapters 1 and 2, maybe kind of inject a little bit more sauce into chapter 1 so it's a little bit more interesting, has a bit more of that flavor, some more foreshadowing. I've come up with a couple of really interesting twists throughout the past couple days, especially twists pertaining to the characters and like their backstories and stuff that I'm really excited to include in the story and make it even more like rich and interesting and dramatic and soapy. Chapter 3 definitely needs a full overhaul. I need to take a look at the scenes that I've put in there and rearrange them and also like reorder them according to the scene cards I've written here. I always forget how helpful scene cards are when it comes to my writing process essentially, but the trick with scene cards and with any sort of like outlining method that is this detailed and granular is that I have to have written parts of the chapter already. So I have to have an idea of the shape of the chapter before I really flesh it out in this way, write all these details and like red herrings and clues. Let me know if you're interested actually in a walkthrough of my scene card method and kind of how I structure these to make these as useful as possible, because the way I do them, I do find them super helpful for my process, but I'm not 100% sure if it's coherent at all, so I don't know how helpful it would be for other people. But yes, this was a super useful exercise. I'm kind of bummed that I didn't have time to draw out a map of the world, but at this stage in the process, I don't think that it's super essential, so I'm okay with putting that off for now. I guess to sum it up, didn't hit my technical official word count goal, which is fine, I never do, but I still got a fairly good amount of words in, especially for a 4-day stretch of time where 3 of those days I was literally working and doing other things. Scene cards were good, I feel good about the story still. Definitely need to go back and edit huge chunks of the first act, especially because I'm actually preparing to share my first 2 chapters with some people, and that'll be a video in the future coming soon to this YouTube channel specifically. I will still continue to try to hit that 50K roughly word mark by the end of this month. Thank you so much for watching as always. You guys really make this kind of thing worthwhile. Let me know where you're at in terms of your November writing goals, like what your word count goal is if you're doing that and what you're working on. If you haven't already, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe as well because that really helps out my channel. And thank you so much. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.